Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a preview to our video featuring the 10 best recordings of Georg Solti, the Grammy champion, as he was known. Now, that video, as some of you already know, is a special feature for Classics Today Insider subscribers. So if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. You can find the link at the bottom of this very video. Otherwise, you can enjoy this little chat on its own, and I really hope that you enjoy it and that it will motivate you to consider becoming a ClassicsToday.com insider. Now, Solti, the Grammy champion, he won more than anybody else in the universe. 31 wins, 74 nominations. Unbelievable. And it's all a crock. I call him the Grammy Grifter, not because he was so much a con man, as the entire Grammy Award process was a complete and total joke. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how it worked and how he got to be Grammy champion. First of all, the process has changed considerably in the past few years, particularly with classical music, because everybody knew it was a farce. And the fact that it was a farce started to even leak out. And so NARAS, which is the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, which runs the Grammys, decided to make some changes. But we don't care about those because none of them affected Solti's Grammys. You see, back in the day, in order to vote for a Grammy-winning recording, you had to be a member of NARAS. In order to be a member of NARAS, you had to pass a certain very low threshold. You had to have something to do with the recording industry at a certain level of admittance. And then you were in, and that was that. The fact of the matter is, nobody was quite sure exactly how the recordings in the classical categories particularly got nominated. There was a committee of some sort. They made lists of recordings. And the thing that made it so crazy was that anyone who was a member of NARAS could vote for any recording in any category. So that meant that anyone in the world who was a member of NARAS could vote for a Solti recording or any other classical recording, whether or not they had ever listened to it, whether they knew who the artists were, whether they knew anything at all. It didn't make a difference. You could vote for it. That meant that the awards were extremely susceptible to what we called block voting. You see, NARAS had its regional divisions. There was the East Coast division, the Midwest division, the whatever. Well, Chicago's in the Midwest, right? Solti won the few initial ones, legitimately, because he was a major Decca artist, and Decca has considerable clout in the recording industry. In those days, it wasn't part of Universal, remember? It was just Decca. And so it was very easy for the Midwest pile of NARAS to tell all of its members, listen, vote for our guy. And that's what they did. They block voted. As a result of that, Solti recordings always won, even though 95% of the people voting for them had never heard the recording in question and probably did not even know who Solti was. After a while, his name got out there. He became famous, and it just sort of, built on itself. Well, it was like Pavarotti. Well, he's the classical guy. I'll vote for him. That's how the Grammys worked. And that's why Solti was able to win 31 Grammys, which is just an absurdity. But the process stayed in place for quite some time, even after Solti was gone. You may notice, if you look at Grammy winners, look up Atlanta. Because after Solti and Chicago had their day in the sun, everything at the Atlanta Symphony on Telarc got nominated and started winning year after year after year after year, because the block voting thing, they got onto it. So like the Mid-Atlantic region would all vote for Telarc and the Atlanta Symphony. They may have gotten some Midwest votes too, since they were based in Cleveland. That's how the whole scam got going. And so what I propose to do is go through the entire list of Solti's Grammy winners, and let's see just how deserving they were. Now, I need to point out, the fact that he won 31 Grammys does not mean it represents 31 recordings, because some recordings won multiple awards. So it's not going to be as crazy as it seems. It won't take longer than you think it will. So let's get started. This is going to be in reverse order. And I'm not going to talk about nominations because just about everything he did got nominated. First, there was the Chicago, I'm going in reverse chronological order. So we have the 40th Grammy Awards, 1997. Wagner's Die Meistersinger, the Chicago remake. That's his second recording of Die Meistersinger. Like, anyone needs to do more than one? There you go. I didn't like that. Did anybody? I don't think so. Well, then he got a Lifetime Achievement Award the year before, in 1996. Fine. 1992, Die Frauen Schatten. Now, Die Frauen Schatten was a wonderful performance. It really is. It's probably the best version of that opera out there, or one of the best. And I have to say, there was a rumor circulating when that came out that Solti had the Sawallisch Frauen Schatten in the control room, and they were listening to it and saying, we have to do better than that. And I remember people thinking, oh, he's telling me, oh, isn't that terrible? They're so competitive. And my feeling was, great, yes, they should be competitive. They should do better. I would like to tie every artist out there down in front of a pair of loudspeakers and play him the best version of something and say to him, okay, if you're going to make a new one, you have to do better than that. I think that's a wonderful idea. So I salute Solti for doing that with his Frau der Schatten, if that is indeed what happened. Then he won for the Bach B minor Mass. Now, as I said, or have said before, and will say again, Solti was a very good choral conductor. He really was. He did a good job with things like that. And the B minor Mass was a good performance. I don't remember anybody caring about it, and I don't remember anyone caring about it now. But there it was. Now we're back down to 1990. No, nothing there. 1988. His digital Wagner Lohengrin. Remember that? Like Placido Domingo was in it, right? And he also won Best Chamber for Performance for the Bartók Sonata for two pianos and percussion, which is just terrible. Oh, boy, is it terrible. Then we had, let's see, Best Orchestral Recording in 1987. Oh, he won it for the Ninth. Yes, he did. That was the digital one, of course. Again, performance that nobody really talks much about, although Solti's Beethoven wasn't bad. It was good, big, modern Beethoven with an incredibly slow adagio. That was something about Solti also. He tended to take slow movements very slowly. People only remember him for these huge brass-laden, kind of barbaric climaxes and things, but that he had a very different attitude when it came to slow music. Often he was boring, because maybe it didn't have enough to interest him, but he just felt he needed to do it very slowly. And it slowly meant more serious. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. Then let's see, we're now at 1986, Liszt, a Faust Symphony. That was a very strange award. That was one of those things that he won because it was Solti, and he did it. But there were so many Faust symphonies out there, fabulous performances of the Faust Symphony. I mean, by then, Bernstein had already done it twice, and no one ever cared about it until Solti did it. And it got nominated because it was the Solti recording for that year. And, that's the one that won. Let's see, before that, we're now in 1985. Schoenberg, Moses and Aaron. Definitely one of his major recordings. No question about it. And now we go back to 1983. Goodness, he won in like 50 categories. His digital Mahler 9, which is just terrible. Terrible. Not a patch on his London Symphony earlier one. Won in Best Orchestral Recording and Best Classical Album. And then he got Best Opera Recording for The Marriage of Figaro, the one with, Kirite Kanawa as the Countess and all that. And Best Choral Performance for the Haydn Creation, which is quite good. Very, very good. But 4 wins in 1 year? You think no one else in the world of classical music had done anything? And then the year before that, 82. Yes, 82, he won for Berlioz's Damnation of Faust, which is also a very good performance. And then 1981, he won for his remake of Mahler 2, which is just dreadful. Absolutely not very good at all. And then, oh, yes, 1980, he won for Bruckner 6th. Shocking. Did anyone pay attention to that? No, not really. But he won for it. And then he got 3 of them. 3 of them in 1979. He got Best Classical Album and Best Classical Orchestral Recording for the Brahms Symphonies, 1 through 4, which are very, very good, no question about it. And then he also got Best Choral Performance for the Brahms German Requiem. So that was a Brahms sweep. Then in 78, he won for the Missus Solemnis. See, these are performances that no one pays attention to anymore. They really don't. I mean, the Missus Solemnis, again, he was a very good choral conductor, and he did good work in some of these pieces. But, so much competition, so many recordings since then. How many of these are really thought to be the best of their kind or among the best of their kind? Good though some of them may be, not many. And then let's see, back in 77, the Verdi Requiem. That's a very good Verdi Requiem, that Decca Verdi Requiem that he did. That's lots of fun. And then the year before that, let's see, 76, Strauss's Also sprach Zarathustra. That wasn't terribly special, was it? I mean, he did some great Strauss, but the Zarathustra, well, they did it because it was, the 2001 Space Odyssey music. So some of the NARIS members might have heard of it. Who knows? And then we have, Album of the Year, his complete set of, and this is in 75, of the complete Beethoven symphonies, before he did all the digital remakes. That first Beethoven cycle, which it's pretty average. It really is. I mean, it has some good things, like all of these things do, but it's not special. And then in 74, he got another 3. Holy mackerel. I mean, let's see. Berlioz, Symphonie Fantastique, won Album of the Year and the Best Classical Performance. And then the Best Opera Recording was La Bohème, Puccini La Bohème. And I don't think, was that a Decca? That was RCA, wasn't it? I don't know. Who knows? And let's see. Then we miss a few years, and then we're back to 1972. Okay, Best Classical Album was the Mahler 8, and Best Classical Performance was Mahler 7. And Best Performance Classical other than Opera was again Mahler 8. So you see, they stack up the awards. They really do. And, that was a famous Mahler 8. I grant it. It's not my favorite, but, it has great singing and really good playing, and they made the sound better by doing some of it in Vienna. Not quite sure how much. There's a bit of an issue there. Now let's see, what else have we got here? No wins then until all the way back in 1967. He won the National Trustees Award. I have no idea what that is, but he did get nominated for his London Symphony Mahler 2. So I guess if you did a Mahler 2, that was going to get nominated somehow. Then in 1966, he won for Die Walküre, the last of his Wagner Ring series. Finally got recognized with a Grammy, and this was on its last attempt. There are no others. Oh, there's one other one. Pardon me. In 1962, that was his first Aida. It's Aida or his only Aida. Did do another one? Maybe, I don't know. But it was the one with Leontine Price. It's a great Aida. I mean, it's fabulous. He made it in Italy. It was well before he was in Chicago or even at Covent Garden. And that's a celebrated Aida. And those are the 31 Grammy Awards of Sir Georg Solti. Are any of them worth remembering now? Some of them? Well, yes, some are, some aren't. Do I think any of them belong in the true list, which of course is my list, of his 10 best recordings? Well, you'll have to take a look at that video and find out. But the bottom line, and what I want to emphasize here, is that whether Solti was any good or not, and he was, he like everybody, he recorded way too much stuff. He got way too much publicity for all of the wrong reasons, because none of them had to do with music. And he did tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. And a lot of it was really very average. And I do give the Grammys some credit for recognizing the fact that his strengths, I think, lay in opera and choral music. They really did. Not so much in the orchestral repertoire. What I find alarming, however, is the fact that his remakes, especially the digital ones, invariably won things, because that's when that sort of bulk group voting stuff really got roaring, was later on in Solti's career. there are almost no recordings that Solti made where his remakes are better than his first efforts. They're almost always inferior. I mean, it's really almost 100%. I may be wrong somewhere, but I can't remember any time when he really did a notably better job the second time around, or delivered a performance that was somehow deeper or more thoughtful or more considered. Solti wasn't that kind of conductor. He was a straight ahead, no nonsense guy, and what you were going to hear was either there or it wasn't going to appear later. And that, I think, is a fact that most people who know his work would probably agree with. But it doesn't matter. I hope that you will join me over on ClassicsToday.com for the 10 best recordings of Georg Solti. Keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.